And credit to Duke, by the way. I mean, the other side,
how about the job that Jon Scheyer has done?
He's done a really nice job, and I think just because because Duke doesn't have a number next to their name, that the casual fan is like, well, yeah, they're solid, they're decent, they're okay, they're just not as good as normal. That team's dangerous. Forget about the rankings. That team on their best day could be in the Elite Eight, and it would not surprise me.
They are one wrong call, at Virginia, and one kind of like questionable call at Virginia Tech away from having won. What would the math be on this one? 12 of their last 13 games, right? And so here, I said this the other day on After Dark too. I think that they should hang the banner in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
How poetic is this rivalry though? Like last year, they send Coach K home with the loss in the Final Four, and then even before that, like at Cameron Indoor, they ended his last one. North Carolina beats them at Cameron, and then this year, like Duke and Scheyer were just like, "Hey man, like that was all a fluke. Mm-hmm. Like we're just going to send your butt home. Have you guys playing in the NIT?" There's nothing wrong with the NIT for a lot of teams, but for North Carolina, that's obviously not the standard. But we're going to compare apples to apples right now, Duke and Carolina. So what's the biggest difference of the season for me? Duke adjusted throughout the course of the season. North Carolina never did. They just settled in on what they'd been doing all season long. That's just what happened. Never changed lineups. I thought they found a lineup whenever they were playing Seth Trimble a little bit. And then they were like, well, they got a pass first guy in there to play with those other two guys that don't want to pass to anybody. Like they fix it. Guys get healthy. They go right back to the same freaking thing. Yep. Like it was crazy to see. The big thing for Duke this year, Tyrese Proctor started out the season at the 2. Jeremy Roach was at the 1. Well, would they find out? Well, Jeremy Roach is much more geared to put his head down and get to the cup for himself first, and then he's a passer. So what they do, they moved him off the ball, let Proctor bring the ball up, and then they started to get healthy. And then they defended all season long. That's one thing. I mean, like Duke's defense propped them up while they were figuring it out.
Hey guys, just a reminder, our sponsor for today's episode is Run Your Pool. They are hosting the Field of 68 Bracket Challenge. This year, they are giving away $1,500 in free prizes. It's all an incentive for you to get on there and find out just how good their platform is. I've been using them for my bracket pools for years. I've used them for Super Bowl squares. I use them for everything that I need to use them for. The biggest survivor pool that I'm in for both NFL and NCAA tournament is by Run Your Pool. So go check them out. The link's below. Tap in.
Mike? That's a huge thing. And they were willing to be like, okay, so this isn't working. What can I do to figure it out to where I can find something that works? And in an era with this extra year of eligibility, there's a lot more freshmen that aren't going to make the same impact that they made 5 years ago because they're playing against 23 and 24-year-olds. It's going to take a little bit longer for Duke to hit their pinnacle. But you have to continue to figure it out. Duke did. North Carolina didn't. It's the reason Duke's dancing, Carolina's not.
Yes, and in a world where a lot of coaches are stubborn or don't want to change their ways, Jon Scheyer's done it in his first year as leader of this program. He made in-season adjustments.
Yep.
North Carolina has not done that.
And here's the thing, too. I compared this. Was it on this show last week where I was like, it's like when your kid plays? Like you see the pinnacle of how your kid can play. So you play him 30 minutes out of 36 minutes or whatever it is in high school. Like, you play him all these minutes because you know, like, hey, when he's really good, he's really, really freaking good. But you just kind of keep forcing him out there, and he's just not that good in the game. He's just not that good. And it's like, well, I've seen what he can do, so I don't want to lose out the possibility of that guy just turning a game on its head like we've seen Caleb Love do. It just didn't happen this year. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but he just kept forcing it and forcing it and forcing it. Eventually, guys like square peg, round hole, it doesn't work. And Duke figured it out. Hubert never did.
Yep. I think it also helps that people were able to were willing to make sacrifices on this Duke team. Like Jeremy Roach is not like, have you heard him complaining at all about, look, man, I'm trying to get to the league, right? Like I'm not going to be an off guard in the NBA. I'm not going to be a 2 guard. I got to be a point guard. I got to have the ball in my hands to be able to make these plays. Like if I'm going to get these accolades, if I'm going to get drafted, I got to do this, that, and the third. No,
in fairness, we haven't heard Carolina guys say that. In fairness, they're just stuck in one.
You're right.
In fairness, we haven't heard them say that, but it feels like that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, it's okay. Fair. Yeah, you're right.
Well, the other thing is that Scheyer wasn't playing some of the top freshmen in key situations here and there. throughout the season, and they never let that get to them either. So there's been a really good element with Duke of just – I'm not trying to put Duke versus North Carolina here.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. Like, Derek Lively came off the bench. He didn't play until, like, February. He's been the difference maker defensively, right? Exactly. Dariq Whitehead, and that's the thing about Duke. Like, they still haven't hit their ceiling because Dariq Whitehead is still kind of in that, like, trying to figure it out and get a healthy phase. So I'm in on this Duke team. Proctor, you know, watching him the last, like, probably 4 weeks.
That kid should be a senior in high school.
Yeah,
he's so good. He's so good.
Like at the start of the year, I remember I was talking with a couple of NBA scouts and Randolph too, and they were like, "Yeah, this Proctor's good, man. Like he's a stud. He's gonna end up being a difference maker. Like he's a pro. He's gonna end up being a first round. Like, and then you watch him in those first couple of games, and you're like, the fuck are you looking at? Like, what do you see that I'm not seeing right now? Well, the last 4 weeks, it's just he's got there's like a pace about him, right? Like he could just kind of come off those screens, understand like everything. He's controlling everything, right? He's controlling the ball. He's controlling the help defender. He's controlling the defender on him. He's reading everything that's happening in front of him. Like he doesn't have to play fast. He just kind of knows what he's doing, can get to a spot, can make a shot, can make a like he's a very, very intelligent player. I enjoy watching him play.
And you never want to say this candidly because you never want to hurt the player, and that's not what I mean, but the Jeremy Roach toe injury actually got Proctor to handle the point guard duties, and then that's what T.O. goes back to here is that
hey, sometimes it's figured out by Proctor, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
Figured out.
Proxy.
Figured out by injuries. Like, for instance, Xavier has figured out that they're a better defensive team in the last month with Zach Freemantle out. Now, he's out for the year. That's obviously huge news that's broken in the last 24 hours. It's very unfortunate for the kid. It's unfortunate for them because they're not very deep. But sometimes you find things out about yourselves when you have to force other players into the game.